that in the class schedule. So if that $90 is just completely out of your realm to do at the moment, you could see about switching over to a different one and see if that will potentially help. Oh, did we freeze here? Okay. All right, are we all still, everyone's still with me? Uh-oh. It's the wonderful thing about the internet, right? Let's see. Hopefully it will come back here in just a second. Are you still with me? Question mark. We'll see. I'll wait just a minute. It looks like everything looks okay on my end, but it also looks frozen. So we'll see. That's the difficult part about the internet. Let me see if I can get back on here. Okay. All right. So it looks like it's back. Is everyone? Are you with me? Are we good? Back? Okay, good. Sorry, I'm on campus and sometimes the Wi-Fi here is not great, especially with rainy weather. So again, that's why they're all recorded. So hopefully it'll be smooth sailing. I oftentimes will go home for these just because the Wi-Fi is so bad at school. So I'm glad it's working again now. Sorry for that. Can't promise it won't happen again, sadly. But what I was just saying is if it's too much for you to get the book, you could always consider one of those classes as well, unfortunately. Okay, so let's go back to Canvas, and what we have now, we're in week number 1, and so you can go ahead and move to week 2 as well if you'd like, but what I'm going to do is focus on each week as we are there. So for week number 1, your job is to read chapter 1 and 2 in the ebook, right? So remember, on here you go to chapters, and you're going to read chapter 1 and 2 right here. And then there's also a little lecture and a lecture video that go with each chapter. So basically you're doing 3 things for each chapter. You are reading the ebook, reading through the lecture, and watching the lecture video. Right? So the lectures are going to follow that same 5-tab format where there's objectives, beyond the book, in pop culture, key terms, and application. And just like with the mandatory orientation one, I did record these so you can listen to them if you would like. But there's always going to be a little summary. The second page is going to be stuff that's beyond the book. And if I give you a video, watch it. If there's a link to something, click on it, right? All of these things, the more of them that you explore, the more comfortable you're going to be with the materials, the more it's going to help you to understand. The third page is going to always be in pop culture, so things that are in popular culture that connect to what we're talking about. The fourth page will always be key terms. These are the terms that you'll need to know on the exam from this unit. So if you wanted to study a little bit each chapter at a time, these are the terms from chapter 1 that you would prepare. And then the last page will be application. Now that you've read this, how could we use this in your life in some way? And for this one, it's related to like careers and psychology. So make sure that you either listen to or read everything, click on the links, do all of that stuff. And then you'll also see there's a little lecture video. And this is me lecturing to PowerPoint slides. These are typically going to be on YouTube or a Zoom link. And so with these, I have slides and I'm lecturing. You might take notes. This is stuff that's going to appear on the exams. Definitely important to watch these. A lot of content shared with you in these little lecture videos. And then you'll do that for chapter 2 as well. So just make sure you're reading through those, watching those. It's really going to help you to get all the materials in. And then you'll have 2 discussions each week. So for each discussion, what you'll see, they follow the exact same like style and format. So you'll have my instructions up here at the top, a little video, and then the prompt. Right? And you'll see that each time. Some of the videos are older than others. This one's a few years old. So you'll want to watch the brief introduction video where I'm going to give you some context and examples. You're going to want to answer all of my questions. All right? Think of them as like little mini papers. Elaborate, show off your knowledge and understanding of the materials. You're also going to read through a minimum of 5 of your classmates' responses and reply to 1 of them. So in total, the discussions are worth 15 points, 13 for your responses to my questions, and then 2 for your responses to a classmate. If you want like a little sample or rubric, I have it linked right here. But so you can see for discussion 1, this one's about the history and scope of psychology. And when you're ready, you'll hit reply right here. And that will bring up a space where you can type your response, right? And you'll be typing it here. You could always write it in like a Word document and copy and paste it. Not a bad idea to save these just in case something goes wrong. And then you'll notice, for example, like Noah already responded. And let's say I really love what Noah had to say. I could reply to Noah like several people did. Or Tiffany, and I could reply to Tiffany. So make sure, again, that you're kind of elaborating and showing off your knowledge. The discussion for number 1 is about the history and scope and nature and nurture. Discussion number 2, same thing, right? So when you click on it, what you'll see are my instructions and the video and then the prompt, right? So it'll be the same format every time to try and keep it consistent. And so this one is about research and how you might answer and ask questions in psychology, kind of coming up with a study. And again, you'll hit reply when you're ready, and then you could reply to a classmate. So those are a big part of your grade. Really make sure you spend some time on those and show off that you understand and can apply all of those materials. The only other thing that you'll see for week number 1 is there's an optional Twitch extra credit, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then I'll post the recording of this later today. So after we finish this, I typically have another class at 12:30, but I'll upload and download the video right here later today, and you'll be able to come back and watch it. It's not there yet, but it will be. And so if you can't make these live, you can still watch them later. And the way that you can get extra credit, if we click on this, there's 2 things that you need to do. So you either join me live and put your name in the chat, and then you're going to answer the question that I give you on the stream. Or if you're watching this later and you're subscribed to my channel on Twitch, you can still get that credit and answer the question. Okay, so there's kind of 2 pieces. Either be subscribed and watch it later, and then you can answer the question, or be with me live, which I think is nice to interact, and you can ask me questions live and answer the question as well. So here again, you can find the instructions. You're welcome to do this now. If you haven't subscribed, please try and figure it out on Twitch. Again, it will save me and you a lot of time and energy. So I really appreciate you taking that time. I'm sorry to kind of keep bringing that up, but it saves me an astronomical amount of time. So selfishly, I would really love you to do that. And then what I'll do each stream is I'll give you a couple of reminders, and then I'll give you an extra credit question related to the content for this week. And you'll go right here and you'll answer it. So let me give you a couple of reminders, and then I'll give you that extra credit question. And then I'll always end the stream with like, do you have any questions for me? And we'll take a little bit of time for that. So reminder number 1, as I just mentioned, please try and take a moment today or tomorrow or sometime really soon to figure out that extra credit piece of subscribing on Twitch. Remember that all those instructions are there for you. The other reminder that I have for you, and I'll put this here in the chat, our next Twitch live stream will be on Wednesday, March 13th at 11:30 a.m. So our next live stream will be next Wednesday. Again, I'm planning on every Wednesday at 11:30. And then the last reminder that I have for you here is remember that if you would like to work ahead on week 2, it is available for you. And next week, what I'll do is I'll go over chapters 3 and 4, discussions 3 and 4, and I'll focus quite a bit on the exam and tips and how to take that and how to use the study guide and all that kind of stuff. And then you'll notice at the end of every 2 weeks, there's a little checklist right here. And that checklist will make sure that you've completed everything. But everything you need to do is under its week, so hopefully that keeps it kind of simple and clear. And then, as I said, I'll always give you that extra credit question. I typically write it out for myself ahead of time just to save myself having to type it in front of you. So for week number 1, the Twitch extra credit question, which I'm going to put here in the chat. What does the phrase correlation versus causation mean? Describe and give an example. What does the phrase correlation versus causation mean? Describe and give an example. So if you are joining me now live and you're subscribed, you don't need to put your name in the chat. If you're not, make sure you put your first and last name somewhere. And then the second piece is you go to week number 1 and you'll click on optional Twitch extra credit number 1. And then up at the top, click on start assignment. And this will bring up this little text box where you can type your response to my question. And when you're done, you'll hit submit. It gives you like a little confetti burst and rocket ships. It's different every time. So little rocket ships. And you can do this all the way until the 17th at 11:59 p.m. when weeks 1 and 2 end. So you have a little bit of time to work on this. Again, if you're watching this later, make sure that you're subscribed to be able to answer that to get extra credit. Or if you're joining me now, then you've met that requirement as well. So for now, the big thing, if you haven't already, get your copy of the ebook, get that registered, get going on that, take that orientation quiz by tonight at 11:59 p.m. Get going on week number 1, and then next week when I see you on Wednesday, I will talk about week number 2. So I think that's everything that I had wanted to share with you. I will always end with like 10 minutes or so for questions. So if you have any questions for me, this would be a wonderful time. You could put them in the chat and I'd be happy to answer them. If you think of something later or you're confused, please, please, please email me, reach out. That's going to be how you communicate with me since we're online. But otherwise, thank you so much for those of you who joined me today. Try and figure out the Twitch subscription, get going on your book in week 1. I'm going to minimize. Yeah, and I answered it, and I'm sorry if it froze. So what I said is you really have 2 choices. Unfortunately, you need the book in order to take the class, right? Without the exams, there's no way to pass. So I'm so sorry to hear that your dad is going through chemo, and I can't even imagine how difficult and stressful that is. So I'm sorry, I know $90 is a lot of money, but it is as reasonable as it could be. So what you could consider if you can't afford the book, you could talk to different resources on campus. There are some like grants and things that you can get to help you with money. I know the health center has a couple of like grants that are small, like a couple $100 that might help with textbooks. You could also look in the schedule. There are quite a few zero-cost classes where there's no textbook and there's no required material. So since everything just started, you could see about switching into one of those. Worst case, yeah, I'm sorry. I wish that it was a situation where you didn't need the book, but for this class, you unfortunately do. And I know $90 is a lot when you don't have $90, but it is pretty low, relatively, sadly, as far as textbooks go. Okay. So I'm going to minimize my video so I'm not staring at myself. But thank you again so much for joining me. I'm going to hang out for a little bit. If you do have any questions, you can feel free to ask me. Otherwise, you're welcome to go. Email me if you think of anything. And I will hope to see you all next week for our week number 2 Twitch live stream. Sounds good. Yeah. It should just be that you follow the link and purchase it. Just make sure you select the right class. But yeah, you feel free to email me if you're struggling with that. There's also, remember, if you go to Canvas and you go to modules, there's also a whole thing right here about like purchasing, registering, and accessing the ebook, some instructions. There's the textbook information here as well. And if you're struggling, I did give you their phone number and their email, which could also be good resources for you to try reaching out to as well if you're having a hard time with that. Yes. And as I shared, the biggest motivation for that was it allowed me to create an ebook that would be drastically cheaper than the ones, because the average intro psych book is close to $300, which is ridiculous. So expensive. Access code, no, so they'll give you a code when you purchase the book, and then again, all of the instructions on how to register it and everything are right here as well. So just make sure you sign up for our class, whichever one you're in, whether it's 31114 or 31156. So I'm going to hang out for a couple more minutes if there are any other questions, and then I'll be logging off to go get ready for my next class. So if you have anything else, please feel free to ask it in the next couple of minutes. Otherwise, again, feel free to email me a little bit later. It doesn't need to be overly long as you answer the question. So it's usually just a few sentences, maybe a paragraph or so. So you'll kind of describe what correlation versus causation means and give me an example. So I would imagine it'll probably be like a little paragraph, and that'll be about it. It doesn't need to be anything like lengthy. So you joined me here, you were here for this, and then you just answer that. And yeah, I would guess like a handful of sentences to a paragraph. Of course, you're welcome. All right, everyone, I am going to log off, but if you think of anything later, please feel free to email me. Thank you all so much for those of you who joined me, and I will hope to see you all next week.